All right, so thank you very much for the introduction, John. And I'm pleased to be able to present a project that hasn't had any previous presentations, and hopefully it's the first of a few to come. The Harden Gold Mine corridor has been a focus for Legacy Minerals since we IPO'd in September last year. High-grade gold mining occurred and finished in the early 1900s, and I'll run through why it came up on Legacy Minerals' radar and led to pegging the ground, what a thorough data review revealed and why there was a strong case for drilling, and what we've since discovered and some of the challenges along the way. Disclaimer to read in your own time. This presentation is also built upon the knowledge gained from significant past work completed by Mortensen, Kenwell, Noakes, Marshall of Clough Resources, Love and Landau, and also the significant work of the Geological Survey of New South Wales, including Peter Downs and others. I'll go into some detail as what we did in reviewing the historical data, as was a really interesting part of what we have done, and it was an exciting process, and it formed a big part of the exploration strategy here. Then I'll go into the geological setting, and finally, what we think we know of the mineralisation after several months of drilling. Legacy Minerals is a junior explorer based out of New South Wales. We have 6 very diverse projects and mineral systems we're targeting. And we're targeting both the smaller, high-grade, low-tonnage deposits, such as Harden, and the larger size potential, including low sulphidation and porphyry-related targets of Ballura and Rocklea. So why propose a presentation on Harden to you all here at Mines and Wines? Well, New South Wales is well known for the world-class potential of the Cobar Basin, the classic porphyry potential and epithermal potential of the Macquarie Arc, and the well-documented VMS potential, amongst others. But it's my belief that there's an unappreciated tier of targets and geological districts that do not immediately strike us as having Lachlan Origin potential, Lachlan Origin world-class potential, yet clearly have the significant opportunity for the definition of economic mineralisation, mine development, and subsequently benefits to the communities in regional Australia. So Harden is 5 kilometres northeast of the township of Harden, Moranborough, centred between Kuta, Mundra, Yass and Young. And the project is 3.5 hours southwest of Sydney with excellent access. It was historically mined the district for gold, and the Harden Gold Mine previously produced 55,000 ounces of gold at an average grade of 21.7 grams gold. The Young district produced over 460,000 ounces gold. It was one of the largest, or the largest, hard rock mine in the district. So, since IPO in September, financial year 2022, we've drilled a total of 19 RC and diamond drill holes for a total of 3,264 metres. We've confirmed significant gold mineralisation around historical workings and suggest continuity of mineralisation below and along strike of the current workings. And some of the better results from the initial RC campaign can be read there. 21 metres at 0.43, no cut-off, with a higher grade of 9 at almost 0.6, 5 metres at 7, including 2 at 17 from 110, 6 at 3.4 from 79, including 4 metres at 4 grams, 6 at almost 0.4 from 118, and 6 metres at 3.65 gold from 128, including 3 at 6.41. And this underpins the case for the future exploration and potential resource estimation of the project. We believe the genie is now out of the bottle. It's an orogenic shear-hosted mineralisation system. And this was the first drilling into fresh rock since the mine closed in 1909. So a fantastic opportunity for us, but also amazing that something like this hadn't been previously drilled. We think it's a great New South Wales example of how a project and a district can be long forgotten or ignored, and possibly serves an example to others that may deserve re-evaluating, maybe in your own projects. And this is what that looks like. Significant gold mineralisation intercepted across 450 metres of strike, and no drilling into fresh rock between the high-grade hits on the east, including the high-grade hits of 1 metre at 7.5 within 6 at 2, and historical RAB drilling almost 300 metres further to the west by Clough that intercepted 3 metres at 10.8 from 20 metres and 6 metres at 1.1. Here we can see where Legacy Minerals has drilled over the last 7 months, denoted by the blue drill collars. The general line of strike of the Harden shear zone is the dashed line, where the Harden tailings dump is located down here in the bottom right-hand corner, in the direction of the Harden extended mine, some 500 metres to the west. Now, the Harden Gold Mine included the surrounding mines that worked here. They were working what was known as the Metcalf Reef, and we call it here the Harden shear zone. These mines included the Harden East, Harden Future, Harden Gold Mine, the Harden Central and the Harden West Mine, later known as Harden Extended, of which the Harden Gold Mine was the most significant. Here's a historic picture of the Harden Extended Mine. This was sinking down to 200 feet and produced between 1906 and 1909 and had a 10-head stamper battery. Here's the Harden Gold Mine. Quite a large show and with a cyanide plant attached. Now, the Harden Gold Mining history was an important part for us to become very familiar with. And it was an important step for us to get the confidence to progress this project further. Mining from 1903 to 1909 occurred at the Harden Gold Mine. It was highly profitable. Dividends were paid between 1906 and 1909, and by the end of 1911, however, the situation was becoming desperate. Little of the high-grade ore remained. They had done very little resource development and drilling. The Harden Central Mine was acquired in 1910 with the intention to drive westward, and this was never done. In 1912, the Harden Gold Mine sank a shaft to 230 metres, drilled to intersect the reef, and didn't intersect any ore. We do not know what those numbers actually were. The management raised the pumps and abandoned the mine at the end of 1912, and the mine was closed in 1913. It is evident that the mine closed directly as a result of the downward economics of the mine. The only problem mentioned during operations was the water, though through substantial cost, this was adequately handled. So, quite simply, the mine ran out of ore. So, why did the opportunity still exist? Well, no drilling and no discovery. It's a common theme. Only 59 RAB holes over 2 years, between 86 and 87 by Clough, in the last 110 years. Average drill hole depth was to approximately fresh rock, 32.5 metres. Later drilling in the district by Alkane and Clough focused on the nearby high-grade gold deposit of McMahon's Reef that produced 20,000 ounces at an average grade of 44 grams. There was no modern geophysics completed. It was held by companies focused on the near-surface open pitable potential in the 80s, or it was distracted by either other projects or the tailings. Prior to Legacy Minerals pegging it, there was no pegging of the ground for the last 12 years. So the historical data review. There were a very significant amount of reports. Department of Mines annual reports up to 1913, mine plans of the sample information, complete set of the half-yearly reports, as well as articles in various journals, newspapers, the Australian Mining Standard. And out of that, we got the data. We were able to get shaft locations, we were able to get good detail of the location of samples, width and gold assays. Sydney mining professionals formed and managed the Harden Gold Mine. The staff at the mine were properly qualified in their professions, as is evidenced by, on the plans, the nominal BE. There is, however, no record of a geologist being involved with the mine, so the records come from engineers and are products of engineers. It does mean, however, that there is a large amount of surveyed distances, vein widths, assay values and the like, but there's precious little observations of rock types, vein styles or brecciation. Nevertheless, the diligence of the recording permits considerable geological information to be deduced. These are some of the maps. With the ground truthing of the shafts, we were able to accurately position the historic infrastructure and development. Being able to accurately locate these workings and samples potentially also has significant implications for any resource development in the future. Now, a review of the past annual reports and mining records led to some exciting observations. Total past production of the Harden Gold Mine itself was 37,000 ounces. The lode varied in width between 1 and 3.7 metres and averaged about 1 metre. The average past production grades estimated 21.7 grams, but got up to as high as 172 grams gold per tonne. Estimated cut-off grade shortly before the closure of the mine was about 13 grams gold. Some of the extracts from the old annual reports. Some of the extracts from the old annual reports gave us an indication of the sort of potential that there was in defining some of the widths that there may be there. Quote from the 1908 mine development report, there are indications that the winch was sunk on a separate vein. In the December 1908 mine development report, the number 4 level crosscut, the last 11 feet 8 inches passed through the ore channel. And lastly, 1909 mine development report, the low-grade ore of irregular widths are still parallel to the high-grade hanging wall or reef. This was the big distraction for the last 20 years, 11,000 tonnes roughly at 2.2 grams gold. That's an internal resource in one of the old annual reports. And this is what we're able to do with the data. We're able to have a highly accurate mine plan, development plan, that has subsequently been tested by drilling, and so we're very aware now of where those that stoped ground is. And there's several significant intersections made by Clough resources that still remain to be tested out to the west. Like I said, 3 metres at almost 10.8 grams from 20 metres, and 6 at 1.1 grams from 24, amongst others. So what did we get out of the historical review? Well, significant historical production, 56,000 ounces for that small area, prior to 1912, indicative of modern mining widths, averaging 1 metre, indicative of modern mining grades, averaging 21.7 grams gold. We saw scale potential, both in width and the strike, approximately 2 kilometres of strike to the Blind Creek, where it was originally identified. No exploration at depth, so no fresh rock drilling had ever been completed since it was closed in 1912. There was low-cost resource potential with the detailed mine records and clear exploration targets for mineral extension, both the cut-off grades between 10 and 15 grams gold and the historical drilling previously mentioned by Clough. So where are we? The area lies within Shebna's Quambone Young Zone, which is an easterly thrust block. Older classifications include this zone within the Forbes anticlinal zone of the Lachlan Fold Belt. The licence is wholly within the young granodiorite, a late Silurian batholith. Observation of numerous circular structures on air photos within the batholith suggests that these may represent various intrusive phases. Also within the batholith is the vertically orientated north-south striking Jugiong shear zone, which has been traced for over 50 kilometres through approximately the centre of the granodiorite, and this passes approximately 8 kilometres to the west of the project area. The middle to late Silurian young granodiorite hosts most of the mineralisation of the young Wombat, Harden, Murrumburra and McMahon's Reef and Garangular areas. The majority of these areas are east of the Jugiong Shear. The majority of the vein mineralisation is spatially associated with the penetrative structures with a west-northwest and south-southeast trend. The Harden Young area contains a large number of these auriferous vein occurrences. The more significant examples include the Wombat, Harden, McMahon's Reef and Garangular districts. In those areas, gold-bearing quartz veins are hosted by the middle to late Silurian S-type young granodiorite, with the majority of the mineralisation located in the north of Jugiong and east of the Jugiong shear zone. And in the central area of the young granodiorite, the Mooney and Kulak faults bound the western side of the batholith, with the Kulak serpentinite Silurian honeysuckle beds in the Ordovician Jindalee group, and in the Silurian Duro volcanics on the east. Now, this stratigraphic is used to describe 2 projects of ours, the Fontenoy and Harden, and the timing of mineralisation in the young granodiorite is poorly constrained. It is likely that gold was emplaced into structurally prepared sites during west-northwest, east-southwest compression, giving an apparent sinistral movement as part of the early to middle Devonian Tabarabaran or late Devonian early Carboniferous Canimblin deformations. Analysis of lead isotope data from McMahon's Reef area supports this interpretation. The gold mineralisation occurred during the Canimblin orogeny. The available sulphur and lead isotope data also suggests that both sulphur and lead were derived from the host rock during deformation rather than being derived from a magmatic or mantle source. However, it is possible that some of the gold mineralisation may be related to the young granodiorite, therefore intrusion related. There are historical references to rich reefs in the Sherlock Creek, Wombat and Redbridge areas where the mineralised zones are described as argillic, altered zones of granite, possibly disseminated mineralisation, and mineralisation near the township of Young, where the vast majority of alluvial gold was produced, quotes that they could not tell the difference between mineralised granite and unmineralised granite. The presence of ultra-basic dikes within the young granodiorite and the spatial association with gold mineralisation suggests that the young granodiorite acted in a brittle manner during deformation, and it is noted that the majority of the structures within the young granodiorite are not apparent from the traditional mapping or airborne magnetic surveys. However, you can see here that the structures are clearly visible in the gamma ray radiometric data due to the presence of potassium alteration envelopes. Now, the completely weathered granodiorite turns to quartz sands and clays with a highly irregular weathering profile from surface down to about 40 metres. You can see there that almost immediately we go into fresh rock, and this comes with its own very interesting drilling conditions. The young granodiorite is a coarse-grained grey massive defoliated biotite granodiorite, with occasional dark, fine-grained xenoliths within the granodiorite that grade to quartz monzonite. Little recorded mineralogical variation has been observed, and there's no hard evidence for a composite intrusion. However, it's possible that there are two suites here at the Harden Gold Mines, with one more quartz-rich, acting as a rheological contrast and favourable site for shearing to occur at Harden. The mineralisation. Harden Gold Mine project area is known to host a single type, a single style of mineralisation, orogenic gold, structurally controlled gold within the the granodiorite. And the Harden Gold Mines and the majority of the significant hard rock mines are located again to the east of the Jugyong Shear Zone. The orogenic style of gold mineralisation characteristically has great lateral and vertical extents, and veins here are usually 1 to 2 metres thick with a strike length now observed of up to 1.5 k's. Gold mineralisation is hosted within the veins, quartz carbonate, and is associated with a variety of clay minerals, derived from the alteration of feldspars in sheared and crushed granodiorite. The deposit, or rather the mineralisation, strikes 105 or 110 degrees true. The dip of the mineralisation is about 85 degrees to the north, and the main veins vary in width from a few centimetres to over 3 metres with subsidiary quartz veins. The veins are sufficiently continuous to be traced for over 1.5 kilometres and known to occur 2 kilometres away at the Blind Creek. Gold occurs in quartz veins, but quartz can also have down to trace gold. It also occurs in associations with sulfides, particularly arsenopyrite. Mineralisation is interpreted to be localised in discrete, steeply easterly pitching shoots within an overall steeply westerly plunging mineralisation zone, and the higher grades appear to be associated with the steepening of the shear zone. As the shear zone flattens, grades appear to decrease, and mineralisation is contained within the quartz veins within this mineralised envelope. There appears to be a strong relationship between the gold grade, quartz reef thickness, and the dip of the reef. Mineralisation characteristic of the Harden Gold Mine shear comprises of quartz carbonate veins mineralised with pyrite, arsenopyrite, and minor galena sphalerite and chalcopyrite. And veins are, here we believe, the early shear-hosted quartz carbonate pyrite veins up to 5 centimetres wide, striking roughly east-west and steeply north-dipping, 85 degrees, and can be weakly to unmineralised. They occur in rock that looks like that. And the main game is the dark quartz with very fine-grained pyrite associated with arsenopyrite, and this can have very high gold grades. You can see there 2 metres at 17.17 grams gold from 111 metres. We also get visible gold within this zone. We believe a late silicified fault breccia zones up to 1 metre in width appear to come after this event. They've got limited extent, strike east-west, and steeply again north-dipping. They can be over 1 metre wide. And lastly, we get narrow up to 10 centimetre extensional veins. These are characterised by bucky white quartz with rare carbonate and occasional free gold associated with galena and rare sphalerite. Veins are not confined to the strongly deformed granodiorite and aren't particularly associated with elevated arsenopyrite or arsenic. The vast majority of mineralisation is hosted within the strongly sheared quartz, sericite, pyrite, altered granodiorite. The locally intense chloride alteration is interpreted to be associated with the early faulting and shearing of the Harden Gold Mine shear zone. And you can see here just how coarse the arsenopyrite can get. The alteration zone can be up to 25 metres wide, and the alteration appears to have chlorotised the biotite and sericitised the feldspars. Pyrite also occurs, and apparently replacing hornblende, but does also occur as vein pyrite. Clays are also present in the areas of the crushed. A variety of clays are also present in areas of the crushed granodiorite. Currently, a geological interpretation has the deposit dipping to the west, or rather dipping to the north and plunging to the west. There is untested potential towards the Harden Extended Mine, including the previously mentioned 6 metres at about 1 gram and 3 metres at over 10 grams. We interpret this structurally to have sinistral movement, possibly related to the Jugiong shear zone, as ground prep, a later oblique thrust faulting for the main mineralisation event, and later sinistral movement, again resulting in unconsolidated breccias and extensional veins. The strike-changing structure is potentially of major importance in the localising the mineralisation. In general, the gold grades, quartz thickening and reef undulations, particularly the dip steepening part, are coincident. And gold, quartz and morphology are 3 qualities that have a unity here. An implication of this conclusion is that mapping a factor such as grade thickness yields no new geological information. Historical assessment by Clough identified either an inhomogeneous distribution of fine gold or gold locked in sulphides in the near-surface environment. And inherent variability in duplicate assays was also identified by Legacy through our RC drilling. You can see there the original fire assay and resplit fire assays and some of the variation there. The problem, however, was not constrained, like I mentioned, to the weather environment, and due to the very high grades and observation of visible gold, field duplicates indicating a potential nugget effect within the sampling, we undertook an independent resplit and reassay of the original drilled bulk samples from the mineralised zone. The results of this sampling gave confidence in the field sampling technique, however highlighted inherent variability in assay results, caused by interpreted coarse gold nugget effect even at lower grades. We subsequently did screen fire analysis, and the screen fire analysis indicated that it wasn't so much a coarse gold effect, but rather an inhomogeneous, fine-grained effect that we identified both in the RC drilling, and we're still waiting for the diamond drilling to come back. This is what it looked like in terms of the surface geochemical expression. Given the amount of disturbance in the area, it was not clear to be able to find trends in anything other than some of the gold data. Arsenic was well spread, and arsenic also dissipates out into the groundwater quite significantly. Those 2 areas up into the north, we identified as being quite encouraging, but later revision against some of the historic reports identified those as areas where significant disturbance from the milling and mining activities occurred. However, that area down to the southwest has no explanation. There are no obvious magnetic features in the government data associated with known mineralisation. An obvious dike structural target and knowledge of association with McMahon's Reef does increase, though, the target ranking of where the known mineralised strike intersects what appears to be a ultramafic basalt dike. Topographic lows are also present due to the faulting, and these may present potential targets in the future. IP potentially highlighting the northwest faults are present, and they present potential targets at the intersection of these known with the Harden shear zone. So future exploration strategy. Repetitions and extensions of the interpreted westerly plunging mineralisation. Seek analogues of major structures with known mineralisation anomalies. Development strategies. Opportunity for moderate high-grade resources. High-grade nature presents trucking and external toll processing opportunities and a small development footprint. So these are some of the considerations for these small tonnage, high-grade potential mines. The challenges, we've got development, sterilisation of resources in the young granodiorite as people move out from the cities and look to subdivide farmland, and high-grade but inconsistent mineralisation presents sampling challenges as well as drilling challenges. That's it. Thank you very much.